everyone, today's overview and review video is on New York Zoo. So if you're new here, my name is Krissy and this is my channel, 2 Sheep, 1 Wheat. If there is a game out there that you would love for me to review or play, let me know what that is down in the comments below. Like this video and of course, subscribe to the channel. So New York Zoo is a polyomino game. You're building up your zoo and you have some awesome animeebles. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the components that come with this game. So the one main thing, I suppose, in this game are these enclosures here that you're going to be able to go around the board or the zoo, visiting the enclosures and the animals. And you're going to take those into your zoo. And with those, then you'll be able to add animals onto the enclosures, onto your boards. I have a 2-player game set up here. So a little bit of a setup for this game, obviously setting up these enclosures here for the board, and then not much of a setup with here. However, whatever animals is at the top is the starting animals that you're going to get. So this one, I start with a meerkat, and this one is going to have a kangaroo, and mine here a flamingo. You can play this game up to 5 players, so it does come with extra sheets. The higher the player count, the less space on your zoo that you have to fill up. So that is set up for the player boards. So the setup for the zoo, for the enclosures here, are all by color of which ones are going to be first. So all at the bottom here are going to be really small enclosures, which is going to be 4. Enclosure of 4 animals. Some of them have these and they are listed here by the small or by the lighter colors. And then you're going to have the little bit lighter colors, which is the 5 enclosure. And then on top of that one, you will have the 6 enclosure. And then some like this one will have a 7 enclosure. So it is all by color, but the colors are pretty similar. And so you can go by the spots that are actually on it instead to make setup just a little bit easier for you. So that is how you set up the game, and the goal to winning this game is whoever is the first person to fill up their zoo with all enclosures or some special tiles, which I'll go through a little bit later on in the video, so stick around for that. So that is how you win this game. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the actions and what you can do during your turn. So to make your way around the board, collecting the different pieces that you need or the different animals that you may need for your zoo, you're going to be moving this elephant. So in a 2 or 4 player game, you can move up to 4 spots in the zoo, on the zoo board. And if you're playing a 3 or 5 player game, then you're going to be moving up 3 spots. And since I have this for a 2-player game, I'm going to use the example as moving up to 4 spots. For one of the options, you can move to a spot where they have an enclosure. You can take the enclosure. Now you have to have an animal on your board to be able to place onto your enclosure. So here I'll go with flamingo. So that is one of the ways that you're able to place an animal onto an enclosure. Say you had an existing enclosure and it had, let's just say, 2 flamingos. It could even have 3 flamingos. And let's say we didn't have that one in our houses right here. So this is basically just like a smaller version of an enclosure, and it's just there to hold it until it can move into a bigger enclosure. So now say we could either use the meerkat like we did with the flamingo earlier to place it onto this new tile. You can move up to 2 animals into this board here. So as long, one restriction to this is you have to have at least 1 animal remaining in the enclosure when you move other animals. So now you can move the 2 flamingos over here. Let's say these 2 flamingos were there. We did have our flamingo from when we started still there. So now we have the option too to take from here, place it in our new enclosure that we acquired, and because you can do up to 2, you can actually just take one from here and place it there. And this is a really good example to do because there is another option on the board, which are these brown spots right here. These aren't a location that you can place the elephant on. It is a spot that you skip over, and it is called a breeding phase, and that comes after you have completed your turn. Now let's say that we were all the way over here, and the person, the other player, skipped over it, collected one of these tiles, enclosures, and placed an animal on. Once their turn is done, everybody gets to do a breeding phase. As long as you have 2 in an enclosure, they can breed. And now for these, you can do 1 or 2 enclosures of that same specific animal, and you can breed 2 of them. Now, whether there's 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 on here, it is only ever going to breed one animal. And since I had 2 in each of these enclosures, both of them would breed because it is still within the 1-2. Now, something with the 2-player variant here is that because the boards are so large, this actually gives you an opportunity to breed one other animal if you had it on your board. And again, the restriction is it still needs 2 animals to breed. So because I was able to breed in my zoo here, I would be able to do another animal in another enclosure. So if I had another enclosure with more flamingos in it, I'd be able to do that too. You just can't do the same enclosure twice. So in this case, I do have 2 penguins, so I would be able to breed them and place the penguin there. Now again, this is only for the 2-player. So that was breeding. We've gone over placing a tile. Now one more location on the board is collecting animals. So as long as it's within 1 to 4 locations away, or in a 3 to 5 player game, 1 to 3 spots away, you can collect the animals that are shown there. So in this case, it would be an Arctic fox and a kangaroo. If I had either of these animals in an enclosure already, I would be able to place it there with them. In this case, I do not, so I would place them each individually into a house. Now, when your house is full, you can't add any more, and so the only time that you can move them out of here is on your turn. You go to a new location and select one of these enclosures and place it on your board. Then you can take it from here and place it there. Now, why are we filling up these pieces with all of these animeeples? Well, that is because once an enclosure is full of an animal, of a specific animal, it will trigger an attraction. And these pieces are used to go in between all of the tiles that you may not be able to fit pieces in to help you further cover your board and to help you win the game. Now, anytime that the last animal is placed into an enclosure, it is triggered right away that you can upgrade or open up an enclosure. So all the animals will come off and they will go back into the supply. Now this becomes open, and whenever you collect an animal, you'll be able to place it on this now open enclosure to be any other animal that you want it to be. So now once all the animals are removed, the first person, you have the option to select any of these attractions. So obviously, I feel like the person who's going to take this first would go with the largest one. And this can go anywhere in your zoo that you want. It can go any way. It doesn't have to be touching anything at all. It's really just to help you fill up your zoo. So that is another way that you're able to get more pieces instead of just these enclosures here. So getting one of those attractions can happen whether you're doing a breeding phase or if you're collecting some of the animals and placing them onto your enclosures. It can happen anytime, and as soon as it does, then that's when it's going to take effect. Clear it off, collect an attraction. And if you forget or you need a little help remembering what you can do in the game, there is a bit of a player aid just up here at the top. So it'll tell you here, depending on what board you have, this is how you can tell what the player count is for what board. So this one is a 2-player, so you can go 1 to 4 spots, and it'll show you exactly which ones you can do. And then it even has the icon here for breeding, and it'll show here as long as you do 1 or 2 of them, adding the animals that are the same to this, you're able to breed another enclosure that is a different animal, and that is shown here by the gray paw print instead of the white one that is here. And then of course this one says once you add an animal to your enclosure here, if you have the same animal in one of your houses, that you're able to move it to there as well. One of them to open up the spots here for all the other houses. So if you are the first person to fill up your complete zoo with enclosures, animals, and attractions, then you are the player who has won the game, and congratulations, your zoo must be epic. So this game is really fun. It is a polyomino game. It is restricted size-wise, but it doesn't feel too restricted, especially whenever you're building up your zoos, you're collecting the animeeples, and you're able to build attractions, which is exactly what they wanted, because they do come with these little 1 sizes here, because you're going to get some parts inside of your zoo that you're just not going to be able to fill because the smallest enclosure is size 4. So a little bit of thinking in this game, and the other players, if they keep an eye on you, towards the end of the game, they're going to figure out what pieces that you need, and they can really prevent you from getting the ones that you want if they're paying enough attention. But there's always so many different tiles that would fit in there, or other animals that you can really get around it. So this game is very easy to pick up, just a little bit of rules. There is a solo mode, and there is also a quick 2-player mode, which is very interesting. I have not played that game at all. I quite enjoy the game how it already is. I enjoyed that it was very well thought of because of the way that you can place your animals out, the way that when you fill them up, then you can get the attractions to help you fill out your board. And I really do enjoy too that for the different player counts, the zoo gets smaller, and it's almost keeping it to the games. Doesn't matter how many people that you play with. Obviously, if you play with 5 players, it's going to be a little bit longer of a game, but shortening the zoo up a little bit, I think, keeps it a really nice length of a game. And it really plays well at 2 players. I can see it playing really well at 5 players. Obviously, everybody who watches the channel knows that I don't get very many games played at 5 players, if any at all. So if you've played this at 5 players, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear that. I was able to play this with a friend. You will have to stay tuned and see who I'm playing with, because that is our next playthrough video. I can't tell you if I won or not. I feel like people would already know that question. But we definitely had a lot of fun. It was super easy to teach. I'm not usually a person who teaches games, but Nick did teach me this game. We have played, Nick and I. So this game wasn't hard to teach, which is really nice. And they had a lot of fun playing the game, which is really nice. And the quality production in this game is nice as well. You get a whole bunch of animeeples. And the tiles are really nice. I think the one thing that I would have to say that's a little bit negative about the game is that the pieces do move on your board. It would be nice to have it a dual layer board so that you're not getting anything falling off the edges, since you can't go off the edges anyway. So overall, it's a fun game. It's a little thinky once you get to the end of everything, when you're trying to place your enclosures all in, trying to get every single square filled in your zoo. And you're trying to do it the fastest so that you win the game, but also not the fastest because you're thinking about it, because it's not just about placing the enclosures into your board, because you need to place an animal on it. So there's a lot of back and forth going between collecting animals, collecting the enclosures so that you can place the enclosures, so that you can place the animals on top of it. But it's pretty easy to pick up on, and I would say that at least halfway through your game, you're going to pick up on some kind of strategy that's going to work for you. Can't say that for myself, but you know, my time is coming. I'm due for a win. I'm definitely due for a win. So those are my thoughts on New York Zoo. It is a really good polyomino game. Really enjoy it. Love the theme about it. The production in this game is really good, and it's a lot of fun to play. So if those are all something that you look for and it checks every box off on your list, then I would definitely say check this game out. So that was my overview and review on New York Zoo. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will catch you next time.